Well, g'day, Gerry. Welcome to the show, mate. It's an absolute pleasure to have you.
Well, I've heard a lot of good things about you. You're a dynamic young guy in Sydney, and people who like me, who write books and travel around, we're always looking for superstars like you who really want to get the message out. People can have more, do more, and be more. And you're one of those conduits, and I see a huge future with you, and that's why I want to hang out with you.
Thanks, man. That's a big compliment. I really appreciate that. So, Gerry, could you just tell us, mate, what is it that you do?
If you were to narrow down or ask me, in 30 seconds or less, sort of cull down everything I do, what I do is this. I show people the fastest path to the biggest cash and get everybody out and get other people to pay all of the cost in order to go get that cash. So there's several components to that. It's got to be fast. And what I mean by that is some people said, it sounds like get rich quick. Well, if you can get rich fast, why take a long time to do it? So I went from poverty to earning millions in about a 12-month period. So it's the fastest path to the biggest cash. So it's like there's a lot of money in and around most people's lives, their businesses, and they need to know how to go and get it. And so my focus is on how to generate huge money. Some of the biggest people in this business, unbeknownst to the public, I'm the guy behind their marketing. I'm the guy who monetized many of the big speakers that, names that you would know. So I show them how to find the money. And then the other thing is how to get other people to pay all the costs. It costs money to build a business today. And so I've come up with some very unique strategies on how to have zero cost marketing. And those three components, it's got to be fast, it's got to be big, and it's got to be self-funding is what I do. And the main way I do that is by helping people become authors. If they have a book, there's nothing faster, in my estimation, of being in this business now for 25 years. There's nothing as far as I can see, that's faster, bigger, or more predictable for boosting a business or a person's income than using a book as an income generation tool or an income accelerator or a business building tool. There's nothing as fast as that. So that's what I do.
Mm-hmm. So how does a book do that then? What is it about a book that will do that for you?
Well, good question. I mean, we live in a day and age where people are very skeptical, right? Of anybody who sells anything, they're very doubtful and they're distrusting today, and they're so overloaded with advertisements, and they're so tired of all the hype, and so because of this skepticism and the shift in the mindset of consumers, we're dealing with a different person today. If you're selling anything, and I don't care if it's pianos or ping pong tables, anything, if you're selling, people are skeptical. They're doubtful. So the mindset has shifted. And what we know is that people buy based on credibility. They buy based on authority. They like to deal with experts. They trust people who are seen or who are visible. They believe people who are differentiated. That is, if you find an estate agent, for example, who's different than every other 1,000 other estate agents in your area, or you have one who stands apart, that counts a lot. We know that in this day and age that people buy based on what their friends recommend, right? Mm-hmm. Facebook and others. That's why you have likes and page views and counts. Because if 1,000 people or 10,000 people watched a video or took a course or bought something and they all said thumbs up for this guy, then that counts really, really well. So that is true everywhere I go. And on this next trip, for example, I mean, I'm going to be on the road for about 2.5 weeks. I'm going to be on three continents. Mm-hmm. And people, no matter where I go, all express the same mindset issues by consumers in every market. That skepticism, that disloyalty, that overload with advertising, the need to deal with people who are credible and so on. There's not one scenario that a book will not mitigate every one of those realities. let me just give you an example. So we're at a networking meeting, and you got this guy who's, giving people 5, 6 brochures. If you know anybody who's looking to buy insurance, give them one. Well, you know what happens with those things, Pete? They give them the garbage, right? Now, you get another person who's an insurance agent, and he's got a copy, several copies of his book. And he says, my name is Gerry, and I'm an insurance agent. I think I've written a best-selling book. I've written a book. 7 questions to ask before you buy insurance. Let me give you a free copy of it. If I gave him 5 copies of it, do you think he's going to throw those books out? No way. And what is the person going to see and think of a person who's written a book on a topic? Do you want to deal with some guy who's just an insurance peddler? Or do you want to deal with the guy who wrote the book on the deal? And so I could give you 1,000 scenarios where a book preempts the competition, a book changes the perception of the marketplace in the mind of consumers. A book is a phenomenal lead generator. Now, I'm not talking about using a book the way most people talk about. Most of those people that you hear out on the internet today flogging education on how to make money with books have never made a dime themselves. And I can tell you, some of the biggest guns who are going around teaching people how to use books as, how to become an author, some of those boneheads have never, ever done it. The only money they've ever made is selling people on how to get a book. That's where they make their money. I've been doing this for 25 years. And so I know that using a book the way I'm talking about is very different than anybody else out there. And my main thing is don't think about selling books. I mean, this insurance agent, for example, could make $10 selling a book, but he could make $3,000 by selling an insurance policy. The money is to use the book as a brochure, to use a book as a marketing tool. And when people do that, then, man, their whole focus shifts. And so we're not about writing books that get in bookstores and, you're going to compete with John Grisham or, J.K. Rowling's. We're talking about using a book as a brochure on steroids. That's what I'm talking.
So how did you get started? From poverty to $1 million. I mean, that's like your tagline.
I basically met a mentor, and I did what he said. Somebody in Australia, in fact, a few years ago, I was on radio there, and they said, tell us in 30 words or less how to become wealthy. And I said, well, I'll tell you in 8 words: find a mentor and do what he or she says. And so I think that's the real secret is to find a mentor and do, not learn. See, most people already know what to do. The problem is they don't do it. So you need to have a mentor who's not afraid to kick you in the ass when you need a kick in the ass. And frankly, most of us need a kick in the ass if we're not making enough money. And so I had a mentor. I did everything he told me to do. I moved out of my comfort zone. I changed my habits, my behavior, my mentality. And when I did that, my whole world changed. And it changed fast. It doesn't have to take a long time.
Okay, because like before the interview, we were chatting, and I was saying like just my journey is it's been like 6 years when I started the business. 3 years into it was when I turned to like really going, okay, well, business education. I need to get educated, find mentors, buy information, and all those sort of things. Get on courses. What was your process like? Because for me, it's all led to this. For me, it's all led to this point right now where I'm interviewing Gerry Roberts. And massive privilege for me. So what was some of the? Could you tell us a bit about your process?
So I met Mark Victor Hansen, the Chicken Soup for the Soul guy, is a friend of mine, and he asked me if I wanted to meet his mentor, which is Bob Proctor from The Secret. Well, he asked me one question and made 2 statements that put me on a whole new course of life. So he asked me one question. The question was, how much is the most you've ever earned in a single year? Well, I'm Canadian, and we don't talk about money, and especially don't talk about how much we made, So I was there to talk about income. I figured I better answer him. And it was okay for me in some respects because I had the best year I'd ever had up to that time the year before. I'd earned $100,000. So I told him that I earned $100,000. And then he made 2 statements. The first statement is, that's garbage. And I thought, what are you talking about, $100,000? I mean, I was in my 20s. I had gotten kicked out of school when I was 15. I grew up in poverty in the projects in Canada, and my parents were alcoholics. My father died when I was 18, and brother died from drug overdose. So I come from a real humble beginning, and so to make $100,000, I thought was pretty good. None of my friends were making that kind of money, and we were in the middle of a major recession here in Canada at that time. And so he said, it's garbage for you to make that much in a year if you could make that much in a month. Well, I thought the guy was nuts. What do you mean make $100,000 in a month? I mean, I was working like a dog to make that much in a year. But when somebody tells you something that's outside of your box, your paradigm, your mindset, whatever you want to call it, your framework, we have a tendency to argue with that. Sometimes we ridicule it, but in this case, I just started the fight with him. I told him every reason in the world why I could never earn $100,000 in a month. I was young. We were in a recession. I didn't have any money. I was making 100, but I was over. My credit cards were all maxed. It was just a terrible situation. And so as I'm arguing with him, he made the second statement. He looked me right in the eye and said, "You're a jerk, man." And I just thought, what? And he said, he didn't mean to be rude, but his story's every bit as sad as mine. He said, but he'd been earning that kind of money and more for over 25 years. And he says, I'm telling you that you can have it. And the only thing you're interested in doing is defending your stupid position about why you can't get it. So he says, why do you reject good ideas? And anybody who would reject a good idea without really entertaining it is stupid. They're not thinking. And my job is to wake you up. And so I thought, well, maybe he's right. Not about the jerk part. I knew I wasn't a jerk, but I knew that maybe he had something that I didn't have. And I sure as hell knew it was. It was to have wealth consciousness, wealth habits. And so I decided to listen to him. And 12 months later, I started to make every month what I used to make every year. So my income shot up over $1 million. And in that period, from then to today, I have generated over $100 million, almost more than anybody in this industry, for me and my partners. Now, my partners, so many of them are very famous, and so you would know them. And I don't want to tell you all who they are because I'm a behind-the-scenes guy in a lot of ways. But the reality is I opened myself up to a new way of thinking, and I started to do everything he told me to do. I wouldn't argue with him anymore. So you see those kind of results. Plus, he'd kick me in the head very frequently if I stepped out of line. So, that's how I got my beginnings. I went to his class. First thing he said to me, I said, "What do I got to do?" And he said, "Well, you got to come to my class." I said, "How much is it?" And he said, $7,500. Well, I almost had a heart attack because I couldn't afford that. There's no way I could afford to go. And so I started fighting with him, and I told him my cards are maxed out. I don't know if I have the time, which was BS. I told him that my wife was going to kill me. I didn't know there were seminars that were that expensive. And he said, "No, listen, stop." He said, "When you're ready to stop living on excuses, you'll figure out how to get to the class." And I thought, you know what? I live on excuses a lot. It's the excuse of what's going on in my world, in my life, in my family, in my government, in my taxes. It's always something. And I just decided to do everything the guy told me to do, and I figured out a way to get to the class, because you always have money for things that you really, really want. And I knew that I wanted him to teach me something. And 60 days later, I had $200,000 in my pocket. So I was sitting beside a lady.
Stop you there. What did you do? What is it? Because everyone you're talking about, I did this and I made this much money. What did you actually do? What was the business?
So I was in the seminar, and I came up with an idea to teach, to offer marketing services to entrepreneurs to get them to publish a book, because I had seen what a book had done for myself. See, that's how I went to $100,000 when I first met Bob. I became a speaker. I was doing motivational speaking for a few years. Then I wrote a book, and my income went crazy. And then I started to think, well, I wonder if that would work for a real estate agent. I wonder if that would work for a financial planner and a network marketer, coach. And so I just started doing books for them. And the ideas were so phenomenal that I changed from sort of scraping the bottom of the barrel, as it were, from getting paid for what I was worth. I used to sell the service originally for 3,000, and then I went to 13,000, and then I went to 60 because I saw the value in what I was doing. So there was a lady sitting with me at that seminar. She was sitting next to me the whole week. She loved what what idea I came up with. And this was like 25 years ago. So this was way before all the knuckleheads that are out there now talking about books as marketing tools, many of whom stole their ideas from my seminars, but that's a whole other story. But she was sitting beside me and she said, that's a really good idea. She said, if I give you $200,000, what percentage of your new company could I get? And I thought, 200 grand, man, you can have the whole thing. So I would never have met her if I hadn't been at that seminar. I would have never gotten the idea if I wasn't at that seminar. What I think about is not so much the fact that it cost me $7,500 to go, is how much would it have cost me if I hadn't have gone. You know, I'm going around the world. The next, as I said, I'm leaving on Saturday in a few days. My airline ticket alone is going to be $14,000. Just think about that. Just the airline. And I'm not telling you that to brag. I'm telling you that because I can afford to do that today because of what I learned way back then. So, you know, you just think I would have missed all this. So when people look at going to education and working on themselves and their ideas, I mean, no, I'm also sort of really got a pet peeve with people in this business. I mean, there's a lot of snakes around the seminar business, folks. Sorry to tell you. They look like lambs, but they're wolves in sheep clothing, I'll tell you.
How do you identify them up front? How can you identify what's a good one, what's not? What's some key things you're looking out for there?
Oh, one is just send me an email and I'll tell you. I mean, you know, you got to ask yourself, first of all, longevity, right? If somebody's been around for 20 years, they're doing something right, you know, in most cases. The other thing is check them out. Are they making money teaching you stuff, or are they actually doing it? You see, I do seminars, but I also own several companies that we're bringing in millions. So it's like, ask yourself, how is the person making the money? And check with people who are their customers and grill them. And then don't get involved in all the hype. Like, watch the hype. You know, you get people saying, well, you're going to rush to the back of the room, and if you run to the back of the room, you're going to get 4 Ginsu knives, and if you do it today, like, you got to watch. There's a lot of manipulation that goes on in this industry, and it just makes me sick. I call it motivational psychobabble manipulation. And I guess I'm really jaded at this point in my life for a lot of I see speakers that are just about as reptilian as they come, and they just drive me crazy. So I say, think it through. If somebody's forcing you or manipulating you or using psychobabble, you know, knucklehead techniques to try and get you to buy. I was talking to a speaker the other day, and she was saying you got to get prospects to get in a yes pattern, you know, so you got to get them before you close the deal. You got to get their head bobbing up and down like that in the seminar room. Because if you say, do you want to buy my product? They're not going to be able to go like that. Like, shut up. You know, that just drives me crazy.
What's the opposite of that?
I still think that it's worthwhile to go and get education. You know, I don't want to unduly alarm people, but I still am a strong supporter of education. I mean, I listened to a seminar last night. Great seminar on building a sales funnel. You know, so I think education's good. And I also think that there's nothing wrong with in some cases, going in debt for seminars. Not as a manipulation trick. Now, you need to think it through and don't do something based on emotion. But man, now what I know about what happens when people are willing to act, that's the trick. Are you going to act on the education? And if you do, man, your whole world can change.
Yeah, no, I totally get. This is why I want to get guys like you on the show, to tell the truth, to tell it how it is, because I haven't been to like a million seminars, but I've been to a handful, and that race up to the back of the room, and you're going to get an iPad, you're going to get this, and there's one guy, he was on the show just the other week, Dale Beaumont. His approach to the big pitch was, he told you all about what he's got, what it's going to do for you, it costs this much. He's like, okay, so you can go at the back and apply now if you want. And that was it. I was just like, dude.
I tell people,
and more people stood up at that seminar than I've seen anywhere else.
See, again, it goes back to what I said earlier about the jadedness of people's minds. So they tend to be very jaded today. And so if you use these stupid manipulation techniques, you'll get the odd customer. And and the reality is some of these charlatans are really good at it, and they get a lot of people. So it's I tell people right up at the front, if I'm on stage, I'm going to sell something. Like, just know it. I'm not afraid to tell you. I tell you honestly, but I make a deal with them. And if I give them good information, I'm going to ask you to stick around, and I'm going to tell you about my product or service. It's going to take 17 minutes. It's ridiculously expensive, and so I know it's only going to be appealing to a certain amount of you, but
there is.
That's what I'm going to do. And I think people respect integrity and are repelled by manipulation.
Yeah. Okay. Now, could we talk about, do you have like set systems? Do you have like the 5-step system to doing this or the 10-step system to doing that? So your thing is about writing books. So I looked at I joined your list, and I've checked out the first video on how to write a book, why to write a book and all that good stuff around that. And that basically, like, anyone who knows a thing or two about what they do can go ahead and do that. Could you talk a little bit about that system that you've got there? Just maybe run us through some of the basic steps.
I mean, my hallmark program is called the Publish Your Way to Profit Weekend Workshop. So in that workshop, I have 5 sections. So plan it, write it, publish it, fund it, and move it. Right? So it's a weekend seminar that I teach people how to discover what books in them and where the money is in and around that book. And if they just go to publishabookseminar.com, it explains it pretty much better than I have time to do today. But, I think that there are strategies for deciding on which the best book. I have a system on how to write a book in 40 hours. So there's a lot of education because I've been doing this for 25 years. I mean, I got a lot of information to part. What I like to do is make sure that the material is customized to the person that I'm talking to. I met today with a mortgage broker this morning. I met the other day with a coach, with a speaker. So there's a lot of different types of people. And, to give you specifics, I think it'd be easier for people just to sort of listen to one of the recordings that I have, which explains specifically. But I go back further or higher up and say, listen, does it make sense for you to even do a book? Well, I can't think of a person who wouldn't have a significant boost in income by following my strategies on how to write a book and publish. Get other people to pay for everything. I'll give you example after example. For example, if you decided to write a book, you get your cover design done. You get the outline of the book before you write one word. Get a good cover design. Get a good title, and then start selling the book in advance by attracting sponsors. For example, so you could go to take my insurance buddy again, He's writing a book on 7 questions to ask before you buy insurance. So he goes and he finds a mortgage broker, he finds a real estate agent, he finds an accountant, a lawyer, and he goes and sells them 100 copies of his book in advance and puts a full-page ad for them in the back of his book. They buy 100 copies. A hardcover book in Australia is going to sell for $40. If they buy 100 books, they give him $4,000. Does that 10 times, he's got $40,000, and he hasn't written one word. So there's a lot of techniques.
I like that one. That's people should be taking notes and just write that one down there.
That's just one. You see, for me, there's a lot of systems like that that we teach in our seminars. Just send people to publishabookseminar.com and they'll get a good sense of what I do and what they can do with it.
Yeah, what I'm going to do every time you mention a website or something there, I'll go back through the interview. I'm going to actually put a link down to it. So anything that you're listening to now, guys, that really catches your attention, there'll be a link there so you can click straight through and go and check it out. Now, you wrote a book called Millionaire Mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Could you talk a little bit about that? Yeah, tell us about that book. What can we?
Yeah, so that's my story, right? How I changed my life by changing my mindset. And so I looked at a whole bunch of things. I looked at paradigms and how we live our life based on the tapes that are playing inside. I talk about multiple sources of income and how anybody in any market should have money coming in from more than one place. I'm making money in Guatemala right now, and I've never been to Guatemala. So you want to. I talk about multiple sources of income. I talk about magic thinking, about how you change your subconscious mind, how our minds are like thermostats, and if they're set for 50 grand, that's what you're going to earn. And so the reality is, you can turn up your potential power and start sort of thinking and being in a vibe that's much higher up, so that you can start attracting much more higher levels of things into your life. So that's what. And I talk about practical things like how do you set goals and a lot of usable worksheets and stuff like that. And my books are very, very practical. People tell me all the time they can't believe that they're getting so much in a 300-page book, but there's a lot of worksheets and sort of things like time. How do you deal with time, and how do you deal with selling, and a lot of very practical things that all start with how we're thinking. People need to have a change in their thinking. That's what I know. Their belief systems are wrong, and that's what keeps them bound. And so when you change your thinking, you change your actions, and then you'll change your results.
Awesome, dude. Now, you got an event coming up, Rapid Results Marketing, the Rapid Results Marketing Conference. What can we expect at that? Because I'm going to come out there on next week, on Wednesday the 20th in Sydney.
Sure, everybody who's in Australia ought to come to this. I mean, I'm teaching the new way to sell at that conference. And so I'm doing a full-day seminar where I'm looking at 7 specific strategies on how to revolutionize your selling. And that's by understanding what's going on with your marketplace and the mindset of consumers. I talk about building a new platform for yourself, and so that you need to be seen to be different. I talk about content and how content can attract customers to you like crazy. And then the last 4 sections are the 4 what I call powerhouse marketing strategies. And I go into some detail on how to use those. So the first one is really a strategy called the social media sequence. And so I think that a lot of social media hype is BS, and and entrepreneurs, particularly small business owners, should run in the exact opposite direction as all of these social media nuts that are out there promoting books and seminars and consulting on how to optimize your web page and SEO and Facebook marketing. I think that most of that's a waste of time. But I do know that it's big enough that if you do certain things and do the right things, you can have a high probability of success. The problem with all the hype and sort of that's out there about the internet and SEO and social media marketing is that it's true and makes sense and it's good for the odd person who hits a home run. But what I'm interested in small business owners who are worried about sales next week to pay the mortgage. A lot of those strategies, as good as some of them may be, they have a low probability of working. So I have one strategy, it's called a social media sequence, that works almost all the time and that does not cost you a fortune, and then eliminates all of the time and hours and hours and hours that most people listening to this would have spent trying to figure out a bunch of nonsense that costs them more money than they could even imagine. The next strategy is how to robotize. So how to use automated marketing. I talk specifically on how why it makes so much sense for everybody listening to start putting their marketing on autopilot. The third thing is called the avalanche technique. It's how to get more leads than you know what to do with by selling to groups. Those of us who make huge incomes don't do it by selling one off, one off, one off with a rejection-based method of selling. And then the last technique is the magic bullet. So that's how do you use a book as a marketing tool? How do you use the written word to attract prospects, close more deals, circumvent the mindset of consumers that are very jaded? And so the last part of the day is on the magic bullet. And so this is very practical. So it's particularly designed for ACEs. That's my target market, ACEs. A stands for authors. C is for coaches or consultants. Mm-hmm. E are for entrepreneurs. What I mean by entrepreneurs, I'm talking about business owners and particularly high commission salespeople. So it's not for some MLM person who's just looking to make $40 extra a month. I mean, my strategies are like a jet engine. And so if you're a Cessna, don't come. But if you want to get to a Cessna and you're willing to invest in yourself and sort of really be stretched, then my strategies may work for you. The last one is S for speakers. So the biggest names in this business, all of them, I've either helped, coached, created marketing programs, or shared the stage with all of them. And I can name them all. Tony Robbins, Mark Victor Hansen, Bob Proctor, Brian Tracy, Jim Rohn, Dan Kennedy, all of them. I have either shared the stage with them, developed marketing programs for them, coached them or trained them, or joint ventured something with them. All of them, all the big guns. Now, I keep a backside sort of behind the scenes thing because that's where the big money is. but anyway, so I help speakers and seminar leaders. So if people fall into those four categories, or they really want to get into one of those categories, then they'll get the most out of the day. But having, I would hope that this recording goes on way beyond my time in this month in Australia. And so people, if they go to gerryrobert.com or go to, probably send me an email at gerry@gerryrobert.com, they'll get an update on where I'm going and when I come to Australia. I think I've been already once or twice this year. Mm-hmm. So I'm there frequently.
Yes, I'm going to definitely put a link to the Sydney one because I'm going to that. So guys, go there, come hang out, come say good day. And meet Gerry, and get all the happy snaps, and basically have a good time and learn a whole bunch of stuff. And I'll probably put a date for maybe a few other ones. You're probably going like to Melbourne and a few other places, so I'll drop them in there as well.
Yeah, it'd be good to have people out. I mean, I'm a different cat. I tell it where the rubber meets the road. No airs, and I can be pretty blunt. So. People have a good time though.
Yeah, man, I totally dig your style. It's just totally in line. I'm so glad you decided to say yes and come on the show, man, because I knew you were going to tell it how it is. Yeah. And it's very different to what is presented as being out there, which is what you've shown us today.
Well, that's same. It's like you're not going to hear same old stuff from me. Yeah. I mean, most of what people hear in seminars is a bunch of jazz in my mind. But anyway. That's my pet peeve.
Awesome, dude. So yeah, guys,
right.
the links are going to be there. I'll put a link to the Millionaire Mindset book as well, so you can go check out Gerry's book. And like I said, man, come if you're in Sydney, come hang out on Wednesday the 20th. Click on the link, go there, find out the details there, and register. That's a free event actually, so you're giving a lot of this good stuff away for free as an intro.
It's not actually a free event.
Okay.
It's a it's a $200 or $300 ticket.
Okay, yep.
But the tickets are paid for by sponsors. So I sell groups of tickets to sponsors. And so if there are tickets available still, I still think they're close to being sold out right now. So if people go to rapidresultsworkshop.com, then they can click on the date and submit an application, registration. Yeah. And while tickets are still available, so it's not a free seminar.
Okay,
it's a $300 seminar.
So it's
lots
paid
of people
for.
would have paid to come at that.
Yeah.
But we do have sponsored tickets available because instead of selling tickets to the public, I sell tickets to sponsors. And so these events are subsidized by sponsors. A lot of great sponsors in Sydney. So not a free event, but there may be some tickets available. I tell people that sometimes the tickets are not free, but there may not be any charge. So but they need to go to rapidresultsmarketing.com or workshop.com and see if there's tickets available.
Yeah. Hey, listen, Gerry, you've been an awesome guest, man. I've had an absolute blast. This has been tops. All right, guys. So yeah, follow the links. Go to check out Gerry's stuff. Get to the seminar, and we'll catch up. All right, Gerry. So would I be able to get you on the show sometime down the track to kind of recap and find out how things are going on?
Love to do it anytime.
Awesome.
And I've got a lot of other speakers, new authors that would probably love to be interviewed by you too.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll chat just after the interview, and we'll collect some names.
Good.
Good on you, Gerry. Thanks, mate.
Great time.
See you on Wednesday.
All right. Take care, man.